What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Texas Platinum, the last of the real water cooler talk shows on YouTube. I'm Trevor, joined by both Matt Myers, Matt Madrid. Clearly, we're rusty. It's been a while. All three of us have had a lot going on in our lives. Matt Myers, in particular, he's now living in good old Chicago, beginning his higher education. So we're sorry that we haven't been able to get a video in a while. Obviously, with the Sugar Bowl ending and all that, we wanted to get our thoughts in on that, even though obviously it's been quite a while since that's happened. But we have a lot to talk about in this episode, so hopefully you guys buckle in and watch and be able to join in the conversation in the comments. So before we get into it, though, like, comment, subscribe, all the usual. Thank you for doing that. And we will go ahead and get started. Let me hand it over to Myers first. First off, how are you doing? How's the new city? And then kind of begin with your Sugar Bowl thoughts. Myers was fortunate enough to be able to actually attend the game in person. If that was fortunate or not, we'll see. Being that it's such a heartbreaker. But Myers, let us know how you feeling, and let's talk Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm good. I feel good. Excited to be back on the show. It's been a while. So, yeah, we didn't do a reaction to the Sugar Bowl, so
No.
we're gonna, yeah, we're gonna spit it out now. And I was there New Year's, and first of all, New Orleans was electric. Bourbon was nasty, but it was a good time. Like, just full of Longhorn fans and Washington fans. And the day of the game, of course, was electric all day. Got to the Superdome, and it was like a home game. And like, I was so sure Texas was going to win that game, and we all were. Like, it was a home game, a celebration of this team that Sark's built, the program that he's built. And as soon as the game started, I knew we're losing this game. You could just tell in the first quarter. And like, they were just had one of those days where they were on. Penix was on. We couldn't stop him, even with good coverage. Like, Ryan Watts played. I thought he held up good against those NFL receivers, but we just couldn't get to Penix. He was on fire, and we almost stole it at the end. But I'll just never forget, like, sitting up there in the upper decks, like in the second quarter, like, just knowing this is not going to happen. Because I don't know, but then again, Quinn Ewers led a nice comeback, and we got a little help with that injury before the final drive, which stopped the clock for us. But I'm gonna pass it back to you, Trevor, for that final drive. We got the ball back with 40 seconds, threw that bomb to Whittington. The stadium was going crazy. I'd already left the stadium. I was like in the tunnels, just standing by myself, just trying to cope and not look too sad, collect myself before leaving the stadium. And then all of a sudden I hear like Longhorn fans running to the tunnel, like where you could see the field, because we're driving. And then next thing you know, it's like we're at the 15-yard line with down by 6 with like 4 plays and 20 seconds to go win the game. And we didn't. So, Trevor, what were your thoughts on those last 4 plays? And then we'll pass it to Madrid.
Actually, I'm gonna hand it over to Madrid since he hasn't gotten the chance to talk yet. Let me get your thoughts, overall thoughts, before we go into specifics about the Sugar Bowl.
So I kind of after that game, I definitely like purposely stopped consuming football for a while. So you were saying a bunch of these things, and I was like, just having kind of like flashbacks over here, and be like, oh, I do remember that detail, or like I thought I forgot about this stuff, but it's no, it was just kind of hidden. Like, it's there, it's vivid still. And now that I've actually had the time to like think about it for just like 30 seconds, I feel like I can actually say something, because I was worried I wouldn't be able to. But what I'm remembering now from like hindsight is we knew what the problem was, or the weakness was on this team, like, immediately. And then we knew the team that Washington was coming in, and that was like our worst nightmare. I mean, we've done a good job of turning around the team defensively and, attitude wise, but for some reason a receiver in the open field is just is we can't handle that, or at least these boys couldn't handle that. And I'm glad I mean, we'll talk about it later, but we're addressing that in the off season for good reason too. Um, so yeah, and then I was watching the game with my brother, and we were in our living room watching. All of a sudden Whittington has that crazy catch, and then I remember, I remember now. Sorry, try to get cute with it a little at one time with that running back to pass to Jaden Blue. I remember being like, "Wow, that was just not the time for that. We need to be taking shots." Um, I mean, we all talk about it being the year. This was the year. I think this is the first year. I wasn't really expecting playoff. I was expecting Big 12, so it was like, a nice little icing on the cake for us. But like when we got there to the playoff, where we were young, we were young in spots, and I think that showed. We missed Brooks so bad, two fumbles from each of those backs, from Blue and Brooks. No, I mean, and Baxter. Man, you can't really come back from those when you're driving like that. That hurts. But at the end, we still had our opportunity. So you know, that one throw, if it's just a little bit lower, 80 maybe cups that into his body. You've seen him do it before. I hate to live in what ifs, but where we are now. So yeah, that's like the first time I've talked about it since New Year's. So yeah, interesting.
It's painful.
No,
This
it's
is a
it's
game.
actually disgusting. I don't like
This is
any. I don't actually like talking about it at all
this is a
because you don't have no
game.
guarantees you'll be back, man. It's
Yeah,
gross.
yeah. This is a rare game in which I don't think I've watched. I maybe watched the highlights at one point, but I really haven't gone back because it hurts that bad. And the reason it hurts that bad is because it got so close at the end. On it, for me at least. I had a friend that I was watching it with, and he's like, "Oh, like that was such a good game." He's not a UT fan, but I mean he kind of is, but not like it's his B team. He's a Notre Dame grad, but he likes UT, and he's like, "Oh, doesn't it feel better that you were so close?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude? Like, I would have rather gotten blown out than to barely make it and lose on the last play of the game." Yeah, it was tough. I mean, like Myers said, I think we were all confident, but also very. I don't know how you guys felt day of the game, but I felt nervous because at that point you start thinking like, oh wow, like these are really big implications. And we're favored, but it's like it's going to be a dogfight, regardless. It wasn't like Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title where it's like, yeah, we're going to win. How much are we going to win by? This was okay. We really got to be on our A game here, and just looked we looked so tight. It was frustrating, especially on defense. I just think that we were just scared, and we should have been because Michael Penix had, I think, the best game of his career. He is that guy. He is that talented, but I think what we saw on that day was the pinnacle of Michael Penix, and I don't think we've seen that since. And I don't know if we will see that in the NFL. Obviously rooting for the guy. Seems like a good dude, but yeah, he was just so on that day that it was ridiculous. And like Myers said, our coverage was not bad. Really, it wasn't. Like we were there, but this guy was like he was hitting like targets the size of dinner plates. He was like just consistently dropping it into like a man is covered, like totally covered, and he just hits it perfectly to where, this small of a target, just dropping it in the bucket every time. And his receivers were doing really well. I give them credit too. That they were showing up and making big catches when it was needed, and their O line was fantastic. That really surprised me. I know that they've had a good O line, and um, but against our defensive front, I really didn't anticipate that they would be able to protect Penix as well as they did. I think a lot of that's on ourselves. I think that we did not blitz enough, and I don't know. I just didn't like our game plan. And on offense, our focus was running the ball and not passing it a lot, which I understood and accepted. But once we got behind, you kind of need to adjust. And I feel like we didn't. We kept just playing from behind. And then once the second half started and the game really blew open with Washington, it was like, okay, this is over. Um, and I don't think any of us saw a reasonable comeback at that point. But then it kind of just happened, and we got kind of lucky, especially with that injury and everything. And then final drive, that was like it was like, okay, like we got to go what, like, you know, 75 yards to get to the end zone at that point in the game, and maybe more. And then after that Whittington pass, it was just like, oh shit, we're gonna win. Where how is this possible? Like how are like I was just so dumbfounded. I was like, how are we get how are we in this position? And it's like this is like a 2005 Rose Bowl type moment about to unfold under our eyes, where it's just like we're somehow gonna win this game that we have no business winning. And we get close. I know before we got in, into the red zone, um, Quinn Ewers threw a pass to uh who was it? Oh, AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell went long. He threw a pass. He almost caught it, and it was an end zone shot, or at least close to an end zone shot. I don't remember it exactly, but I do remember there was a play, and me and the people that were watching with were like, "Oh, that was so close," but we got all this time and we got all these plays. In retrospect, I wish AD pulled off that catch because then we would have won, most likely. But I don't know if you guys recall that pass that I'm talking about, but it stands out in my mind. But the fact that we got into the end red zone and had four plays, probably only enough for three because one of those plays just Quinn immediately threw it out of bounds. I before recording this, I haven't actually gone back and watched that last drive. I watched those four plays and I wanted to like punch my computer. It was just the play calling was bad and Quinn was bad. This is one more additional overall thought about the game. I was very disappointed with Quinn Ewers. I know it wasn't really his day. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. And on a day that we needed him to be a leader, this is my challenge for him going into the new year. We need him to step it up. Because when we were down and the game was starting to get out of hand, you saw shots of him on the TV. I don't know what you saw, Myers, since you were there, but on the TV, he was sitting on the bench, not saying a word to anyone, just quiet, looked disinterested, did not look like a leader at all. And the one that was rallying the troops was Jalen Ford, at least what we saw on the TV. And I needed Quinn to stand up and speak up and get his team hyped, especially as the game was getting closer. And I know that's not really his MO. He's known for being a quiet guy, but we've seen in big games him rally the troops. Like you think about Alabama on the road, like Quinn was a leader and showed passion and spoke to his team. He did not do that in this game. Um, and that bothered me. And going into the new season, he's a Heisman favorite and one of the best quarterbacks in the country, most likely, but he still has a lot to prove in my eyes. And this game, I think, is a kind of puts a pin in that. But yeah, last thoughts, final drive. Don't like the way that we did it. We did like a swing pass to Blue, which was stupid. Like you have like 10 seconds and you're throwing a short pass to a running back and you got to get 11 yards. That was lucky that he didn't get tackled in bounds. Um, and then next shot, I think Quinn just threw it out of the end zone. Uh, and then one after that, he immediately threw it out because play was blown up. And then last play, all three of them ultimately were to Mitchell. So I kind of wonder if it was just set that they were going to do a fade route to Mitchell. And just knowing Sark, I think he's more creative than that. And I don't know. In retrospect, I just wish that Quinn didn't just lock in on one guy for all 4 plays. And there's so many things you could have done. I think Whittington was having a good game. I wonder if you could have got him on a crossing route in the end zone. I wonder if Worthy could have brought out the whip route that we unfortunately will never see again. Now that he's leaving. There's just so many things that I think we could have done. And um, yeah, AD was probably our best shot, but I don't know. It's hard whenever you know exactly where the ball's going to go. And yeah, I don't think Quinn had his best game, and we needed him to have a better game than he had. But same could be said. It was a team loss. I won't fully put it on Quinn, but um, it was a day that I think he needed to be a little bigger than he was. So, you guys have any more thoughts to add?
Yeah, I don't really have issues with the play call down the stretch. I mean, who is it? Daryl Royal said you got to dance with the ones that brung you, and AD Mitchell's that guy. Although it was obvious we were targeting AD Mitchell. So yeah, I see your point. Maybe find Jatavion off of AD Mitchell, like a crossing route the other way. But the bottom line was the play was drawn up. Mitchell was open in the end zone on a back shoulder, easy, just pitch and catch, 15 yards wide open, and Quinn waited too long and airmailed it on the final play. So
Yeah.
I think moving the conversation to Quinn, it's unfortunate he didn't have one of his elite games, and that's been the problem with Quinn because he's been bipolar as a quarterback. He's got one amazing game. Look at the Big 12 championship. The next game he looks pedestrian at times. Not bad anymore, just pedestrian. And it really was like every other game back and forth this entire season, really, which is like so frustrating because when he's on, he's on. He's unstoppable. I mean, the dialogue after the Big 12 championship was like Quinn Ewers is about to take over the playoff when go pro in the first round because he looks so dialed against Oklahoma State, and then he goes out and looks pedestrian against Washington, who has not a good defense or average defense. So, yeah, I think the loss a lot of it was on Quinn and the running backs, but either way, just zooming out, Texas, I have to keep it in perspective because Alabama, they didn't win their first playoff trip. They didn't win it all their first playoff trip. Georgia didn't either. Michigan didn't either. Clemson didn't either. So there's a progression you have to take when you're trying to build a program where most of the time it involves you getting close and then losing, and then you have to rally and keep it going, and then eventually you get over the hump. I mean, Harbaugh was laughed at the last few years for coming up short. Same with Kirby for a while. Kirby couldn't beat Bama. And it's just you have to keep it in perspective. Sark's doing it, building it the right way, and this is only the beginning. This is only his first, real roster that he built with his coaching staff and his players. So um, I really like how it's built to last. But yeah, when you're there and you have a real chance to win a national championship and it's so close, it's just like it eats at you. I still text my friends like middle of the night on a Tuesday. I'll text them at midnight. I'll be like, I cannot believe we lost to Washington. Like I think about it way too much. Like obviously not like it's just sports, but like it eats at me as a fan. So um the good news is we have a good team coming back, I think, and I think Sark will take us there many more times here in the future. But yeah, it just sucks. Just sucks.
Well, and what makes it worse is I feel like the knife continues to just get turned in our body as the weeks and the months go by because the following week Washington did not show up against Michigan. It's like you guys showed up big for us, and then in the national championship you look like half the team that you were the week before. Um, so that was disappointing to see. It's like okay, like, and I really do think we would have had a shot against Michigan. I think we would have favored pretty well um, with the type of team that they had. And then really what's made it even harder, and this will be our next talking topic, is the NFL Combine. It's like, oh my gosh, like for the first time and since like early 2000s, it seems like we have players that scouts are drooling over, and multiple, not just one, not just a Bijan or, you know, a player like that. Like it's a bunch of them. And it's like, wow, we really did have a better team than maybe we even realized. And that makes it hard too, where it's like you had that much talent, veteran talent, especially. And it's just like those kind of teams are the ones that typically win it all. And it just, I don't know. I know that we have a great team coming back and our odds are looking good and all that stuff, but uh, in my opinion, at least, veteran talent is always going to be a big factor in winning a national championship most of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time. So I don't know. It it continues to hurt. Madrid, you got anything more?
I mean, you guys said it all with the Sugar Bowl, really. My last like little tidbit about the season would be, I think we finally learned to like overcome our mistakes in critical times. Like there was never a quit in the team this year, which was beautiful. But that's the bare minimum. The next step for me would be not making those mistakes in critical times. There's steps to this, and I think we overcame a big one this year, and um, we we saw what when it all comes together, we know what we can be, and we've been saying this for years. It's only validation for the type of team that we were looking for and the type of things that we were asking or demanding of our team. So we're in a good spot. I just it's all about continuity now and consistency.
Well said. All right, we're going to transition over to the NFL draft, and we'll definitely talk mostly about the combine. Um, Texas gets 11 players invited, which is the highest ever for the Longhorns. 11 is a lot of people. Again, that's what really makes this, loss hurt. It's like, wow, we were that veteran and we were that talented. Um, Obviously, a lot of players showed up big, you know, most notably Xavier Worthy breaking the um, combine record for the 40, running a 4.21, which I want to get all of our thoughts on that. And then AD Mitchell, if it wasn't for Worthy breaking the record, he would have been the talk of the town. Just an outstanding performance in the combine. Also ran really fast, like a 4.3. So since you haven't gotten a lot of talking in Madrid, I want to hand it to you first. Give your thoughts on combine draft, kind of wherever you want to
Yeah.
take it. And
Um.
you're the NFL guy, so I do.
Yeah, I think one thing that was special about this year's combine and draft or upcoming draft or this season in general is you heard a different tone when hearing about Texas players. I feel like in the past, like you got the like you said, you either got that star and Bijan, where it's just like, yeah, that's our one guy, or it's like a bunch of guys going like towards the end or undrafted, and they end up turning into something, which is
Right.
looks so bad in our
They're like
part. But
steals.
this year, yeah, exactly. Like
It's
Caden
like
Stearns was steals. Like he really shouldn't have been if he was developed right. He should have been
Brandon Jones.
all those guys, PJ Luck, all those guys. But this year was the first time you started hearing about um technique and skill and route running and strength. One guy in particular, where I was surprised. Well, not I guess not surprised, but surprised that he's surpassed Sweat. There was a time where Tavondre Sweat was higher, more highly rated than Byron Murphy. Like he was the Texas's like defensive lineman to get in the draft. And then after the combine and after the way they saw his workouts and his tape, he's shooting up the draft rankings right now, and it's absurd thinking about a defensive player uh from Texas being like that sought after. I think that's really cool. I mean, it's probably a little too much, but like you're seeing articles written about like he's got size and skills comparable to Aaron Donald. Probably won't have that career, but like the fact that like that's even mentioned in his draft grade is a great sign for where we are development wise. Back in the day, you hoped you got like a Connor Williams or a Sam Cosmi and getting drafted in like the fifth or something. Or Connor Williams was kind of high, but it's just nice to know that we got legit first round talent back on this campus. And, it showed out. I remember AD Mitchell's 4.3 came out, and everyone was just like, "Yep, that's right. Better than." Or there's a camp out there that's like, better than Worthy, whatever. He was our number one, and then moments later, you get that notification that Xavier Worthy breaks the record, which is really cool to do. And he's getting a lot of John Ross comparisons, but the difference between him and John Ross is John Ross couldn't run routes; he was just fast. So I think this bodes very well for Xavier Worthy, and he's going to be special. So, I mean, it was just overall one of the best combines, most interesting combines for Longhorns fans in a long time. Um,
Yeah, it's nice to have actual like relevant players at the combine, like highlight players. And I really hope Worthy lands with the Chiefs. I would love to see him with Mahomes because it felt like a lot of the shortcomings of Worthy had to do with him and Quinn never having great chemistry. I feel like Mahomes would do well with Worthy and it'd be a lot of fun to watch. But AD Mitchell as well has been mocked in that range of going to the Chiefs. So hopefully one of them lands there. Whoever does is going to hit the jackpot, of course. But they're both great players, and it's crazy that Mitchell ran a 4.35, which is awesome. He made a lot of money that day. I wanted to circle back to Byron Murphy. It's amazing to think what he was like a three-star Herman, flip late in the process, and now he's penciled in as defensive tackle number one on the big board. I mean, he's going to go first round. Like he's our for sure first rounder, and he might go top 15. So that's just a great endorsement for the Texas program. I know we lost Bo Davis, so hopefully this Kenny Baker hire can continue to develop at that same rate, and I think he will, or hit close to it. But um, it's just awesome to see because as we're joining the SEC, that's what you need to have. And Alfred Collins, Ray Bledsoe, Vernon Broughton. It's up to y'all to continue the legacy because um, before it was Murphy and Sweat, it was Coburn and Ojimo that were our guys, and they weren't as good as these two that we just had, but they were decent, they're pretty good. So hopefully they just keep continuing that lineage going forward because you need it in the SEC. So it's awesome to see these guys going on day one. We're going to see, it looks like more than two, maybe three. And then Jatavion might be in the second round. Sweat might slip into the second round if we're lucky. So, yeah, it's awesome to see, and it just helps with recruiting. So, very excited to see where they all land here in a few weeks.
Yeah. I it was a lot of fun getting to watch the combine and just follow on social. Like you guys said, it's enjoyable to be able to have players that people are like excited about, and like the national media is like sending tweets about, like like before Xavier Worthy's 40, I feel like they were tweeting about like Tavondre Sweats. And I don't know if that was like a joke. I think part of it was because it wasn't that great, but I kept seeing his 40 a lot. And then of course Byron Murphy's been getting talked about for a while, and then AD Mitchell went off, and then Worthy running the 4.21. I want to get y'all's quick thought on that. Did you guys expect that? Because I definitely saw him running like a 4.3, maybe high 4.2s, but 4.21 was. I mean, we all know that Xavier Worthy's like fast, but I didn't know he was that fast. And part of me I think he might just kind of have the body type and the build, and be the kind of guy that I think if he trained for the 40, which he did, I think that he's not a track guy, but he could be. Is what I'm getting at. Is I think he has that ability to be that fast if he trains for it, and I think that showed off. But point is, I was surprised. Were you guys equally shocked?
yeah, I was pretty surprised. I mean, we all know he's fast, but I didn't think he was like NFL best combine fast. Like I knew he had first round talent speed. Like, yeah, that for sure. But that's also like where, AD speed is too, where it's like, yeah, that's good speed. I'm reminded of the quote from I think it's the Wyoming AD.
Oh
I
yeah.
think
When
I
he
think
took
it's
off
him
down
or
that
it's the head
sideline.
coach. I don't know that guy. And he was like, it was with that game. It was a post game conference about that game. I think we all know it. Where he was like, I think that was the fastest person I've ever seen in my life. I remember back then being like, I mean, you guys play,
You're Wyoming.
Mountain West. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's probably the fastest person you've ever seen, like on a football field, because you play Mountain West. But like we see this all the time. But like, and then the 4-2 happened, and then I went back and I was like, I think about the play. I was like, maybe that was the fastest person that anyone's ever seen. I'm trying to remember that play right now, and I remember him. He just hit the sideline, and he was gone. Everyone looked like they were in mud. But I guess he was onto something. He knew before us. But yeah, I really wasn't expecting it too much.
Yeah, he was just that guy. Like, I never really thought of him as just like he gets the ball in the open field, he's gone. He's that fast. I never really, I guess on punt returns, he was kind of like that. But yeah, I was honestly more shocked about AD Mitchell running in the 4.3s. But
Yeah.
yeah, Worthy setting the record I didn't have on my bingo card. But if you think back to a couple plays, like I remember the Wyoming touchdown he had, like his acceleration was insane on that play and a few other punt returns. So yeah, like you said, Trevor, I think he just was in good shape and trained for it and hit his
OU
peak at the right time.
2019.
Yeah.
The
So
first
we
play
just
against
did,
OU.
yeah, we just didn't get to see it all the time consistently, but every now and then he showed that flash. So yeah, it makes sense that he was up there in the 4.2s.
Last quick question I wanted to ask. If the over-under was set at 3 for Longhorns taken in the first round, would you bet the over or the under?
I'll go under. I don't believe three. The field three would be tough. Well, if you're doing three, it's Xavier, Murphy, and AD, right?
Yeah, that's what I would think, unless Sanders somehow snuck in if they really to,
Yeah.
wanted to draft tight end
Actually, it's
over
because we
Sweat.
have a lot of guys going like probably round two or three. So, like it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, but I don't know. That's a lot.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't. I think it'll be two. I think it'll be Murphy and one of Mitchell and Worthy. But I think if you did like top 40 picks, I think we're a lock for three because I think Worthy and Mitchell are both on that fringe, but they'll both be day one guys first. They do 2 rounds on the first day, I think, right? So yeah, they'll both be like top 40 picks.
Yeah. Also Brooks, but I think he's day two.
Right.
But he's kind of top running back right now that I'm seeing. So
Definitely.
anyway,
I mean, with the market though, the way that is, like top running back doesn't mean much anymore.
I know.
Unfortunately,
I know.
it
But
sucks.
I feel like there's always at least one running back taken in the first
Usually
round.
one, right?
So
But most teams learn their lessons now, as we've seen.
yeah, unless you're like a generational type player. All right, so now we're going to transition into the upcoming season, 2024. Spring ball is starting next week. That'll be exciting. A lot of new faces on the 40 acres that we're very excited about. So I'm going to hand it over to Myers and have him kind of give his opening thoughts on spring ball starting, kind of what we're anticipating and expecting and hoping to see out of this from our team.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. It's going to be a good spring because Sark has done such a great job bringing in a bunch of new talent to replace our old talent that's going on to the NFL. A couple guys, obviously, we were excited to see this spring are Isaiah Bond, who's expected to be our ace receiver to step in for Worthy and AD Mitchell from Alabama. We're familiar with him. He kind of cooked us a little bit when we played him this past year. But the guy I'm most excited to see is Matthew Golden. He's the receiver from Houston. So I really think this guy's going to be our best receiver next year. And everybody's talking about Isaiah Bond, even Silas Bolden, but Matthew Golden is that guy. Remember this. Remember what I'm saying right now. Matthew Golden's going to be our best receiver next year. Transfer from Houston, he's electric. I remember whenever we played Houston, I was terrified whenever he got the ball. So it's nice to have a guy like that on our team. And I know Quinn will enjoy throwing to him, but Other guys, Trey Moore, Makuba on defense coming in from the portal. Trey Moore, Defensive Player of the Year at UTSA in the American Athletic Conference, or yeah, I believe it's that conference. So he had like 15 sacks last year off the edge. He's a San Antonio guy. Shout out San Antonio. But that's what we need, man. We need those like technician pass rushers that we've been missing. We missed it last year, man. We had the interior so good, but we didn't have that edge guy. Sorrell was good.
Colin Simmons.
Yeah, throw in Trey Moore and Colin Simmons. Sark's really addressing that. Speaking of Colin Simmons, going to the freshmen we have, Colin Simmons is like the number one guy I'm excited to see. But the rumblings out of camp, or I guess workouts so far, have been Xavier Filsaime, the 5-star we flipped from Florida at safety, which is also a position of need. He's looked great so far. So we'll see if he can be a contributor early on, which I would imagine he's going to be. Brandon Baker, kind of next in line for our franchise tackle, left tackle, behind Kelvin Banks, the 5-star from Mater Day. He's in the program looking good. I think he's slim right now, though, so I don't know if he'll be a day one contributor, but by year two, he'll be ready to take over at right tackle and then eventually be our franchise left tackle. And then who else? Ryan Wingo. We've heard good things about it. Receiver, guys that have been there. Jonte Cook. I'm excited to see what he can do. But we really need to see some defensive tackles step up this spring. We got that transfer from Arizona who can be a good depth piece, but we really need a couple stars to step up. And I think Alfred Collins and Jure Bledsoe, maybe Vernon Broughton are the guys we're looking at. But also Aaron Bryant's been in the mix too. So, and I think we're also still shopping the portal. The spring window is going to open up. Inside Texas said that we're going to still try to get those Michigan defensive tackles somehow from the portal. And when they keep mentioning it, you know that there's probably some smoke there because they did the same thing with A.D. Mitchell. They're like, A.D. Mitchell might enter the portal, and if he does, it'll be Texas. And for a while, you're like, yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. Then it happens. So keep your eye on that. That'd be great. Those are just what the doctor ordered. Really, I feel like the defensive tackle position is the only hole we have going into next year because the whole line's back. Receiver core is reloaded. Running back room looks good. So, and also Jaleel Billingsley. Forgot to not Jaleel Billingsley. Amari Niblack, I meant to say, the Alabama tight end, is also here now. So excited to see what he can do to fill in for Jatavion. That guy was a matchup nightmare last year. So a lot to look forward to, man. And really, Quinn. I think Quinn is the most important, obviously, the most important factor into how we're going to do next year. He needs to be consistent. And Malik Murphy's gone now. So Arch is going to be taking all the number 2 reps. And I mean, Arch looks good, man. Arch looks good from what you hear. And he looked good against Texas Tech physically. He looks good. He looks the part. And he's not going to wait around and just be a backup. He's going to try to get that starting job. So I'm hoping Quinn can feel the competition and improve, and we'll have some great, healthy competition there. And Arch will be ready to take over next year as we go into year 2 in the SEC. So it'll be fun to watch. I know the practice reports will be crazy this spring with Arch and Quinn going at it.
What do you think, Madrid?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Matthew Golden because that guy was money in fantasy, college fantasy. I didn't get to have him, but he was always tearing it up. But yeah, I'm glad that he's on our side now. I think we've got a really interesting mix of youth and some vets. Not as much as we had this past season, of course, but just looking at it at a surface level type of way. It sucks because we have a lot of, I wouldn't say, I mean, having quality depth is a good thing and having a lot of good talent is a good thing, but there's a lot of players I'm interested on this roster that I especially in the receiver room, that I fear will never really get to truly blossom here. But like I like what Meyer said though. Everyone needs kind of pressure on them to be better, and I'm hoping Quinn uses that to get better as well. So I echo a lot of those same sentiments.
Yeah. Probably most curious about the defense, looking at the team as a whole, because It's just a lot of people that we lost on the defensive side of the ball. Not as much on the secondary. We did lose Watts, but I feel like a lot of the players that we're getting into the program are pretty talented. Some notable transfers there, but especially our linebacker position. David Benda sticks around, and curious to see if he kind of becomes our leader on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I know that Jade Barron is probably our biggest leader, but at least in terms of the, you know, front seven, I'm curious if Ben is going to be that guy and see if he takes a step forward at all because he looked really good in a lot of games. Well, not a lot of games, but in a handful of games, he looked pretty good. So love to see him take the next step. Um, but yeah, I think our defensive line will be exciting to watch and our edges as well. Like we said, Colin Simmons, I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see how um why am I blanking on his name? Anthony Hill. Surprised we haven't said him yet, but see how he continues to progress and what kind of role he'll play because he kind of moved around a bit. Myers, do you know what he's anticipated to? Is he going inside or is he staying as a rush? Or do you not know yet? Part
That's
of
a
it
good
for us to
question.
figure out, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think eventually he'll be more of a middle linebacker, but he's so good
yeah,
off the edge. But then again, you have Colin Simmons there now, and Trey Moore and Barron Sorrell. And Ethan Burke apparently is a high draft pick next year. They're saying so.
yeah, I was going to
But
mention him.
yeah, it's a crowded room. So we'll see. But I think you want Ant Hill to become that alpha in the middle of the field, kind of like Jalen Ford, ideally, if you have good pass rushers on the edge.
Yeah. So defense definitely interested in. Offensive line, I'm kind of curious about too. If Cam Williams, I'm assuming, is taking that role to fill in for Christian Jones, who also had a good combine. We did not mention him, but he looked good and hope that he makes maybe a day two. Maybe he'll still be a steal day two, but or surprise day two because his measurables were really good, but we'll see. Um, so yeah, and then I'm looking at the roster now. I'm kind of shocked that Savion Red is still on his team, but I guess there's still time for him to leave if needed, because I know our running back room is pretty deep.
He
Gotta be
bulked up,
honest.
bro. Missed the news, bro. He got bigger
Oh
somehow.
yeah, did he change
Yeah.
positions? No, he's
No,
still
I think
running
he's still
back.
running back. Still running back, but he got bigger. Like he's doubling down.
Yeah, 5'10", 240. That's what he's listed as. That's too big. That's like a bowling ball.
Huge. It's huge.
That's like who was your favorite guy from Texas Tech? The running back. Gosh, what was his name?
Todd
Texas
Uh
Brooks.
Tech running back, big guy. You always liked him, Madrid.
oh my God, make me look bad.
His last
Todd
name
Brooks.
starts no, his last name starts with an S. Shoot.
Oh,
Oh,
Sir Roderick.
So
Sir
Roderick.
Roderick.
Yes. That's
Sir
who.
Roderick. Yeah, dude, that is him.
Yeah. But here's your guy. You always talked about Sir Roderick.
Love Sir Roderick.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be exciting. I mean, like Myers said, and like we've kind of hinted at, and like I talked about, in regards to the Sugar Bowl, Quinn Ewers taking that next step. That's so hard to see in the spring. I got to be honest. Like, it's not really until the games happen that I'm really going to be paying attention to Quinn, because it's so different, from spring ball, fall ball, practice. And then once the games start, that's I think where we're going to be the most curious about his development. Um, I'm curious to see if he becomes more of a leader and starts doing, you always hear about the legendary Vince Young and Colt McCoy quarterback stuff where they're like, yeah, I'm taking over 7-on-7 and I'm doing my own practices and my own this and my own that. I'd love to see him like continue to progress leadership wise. And I mean, I want to see his fundamentals get better. I've been saying that since day one, and I think a lot of people agree that he needs to continue to work on his footwork and his decision making too is he's a check down guy and he hasn't thrown a lot of picks this past season, but I don't know. I think my view of him is a little tarnished whenever I look back at the Sugar Bowl game, just because I I mean, I think back to like the check downs that he did on the last drive where we had like no time left and he's throwing the ball to Blue multiple times. And it's like, dude, like get the ball downfield. And you have an arm for it too. And there's a time to check down. And I appreciate that he plays smart in some regard, but situational awareness I want to see improved as well. Um, but yeah, receivers will definitely be an exciting group to pay attention to and see kind of who becomes the big alphas there. And then also kind of curious about tight end, see if why am I blanking on his name? Who's our big tight
Gunner.
end?
Gunner.
Gunner Helm, yeah. I'm so used to JT Sanders, but yeah, Gunner Helm, he looked pretty good in certain times last year and seemed a little bit more of a natural pass catcher than Sanders, which is weird to say, but I don't know, his playing style is different, and I don't know, maybe that's a stupid comment, but at least that's how I felt sometimes watching him, as he just seemed like maybe a better route runner, maybe I don't know,
I think the
but
jury's out on him.
yeah, so we'll see, but those are kind of my spring thoughts. Again, it's always just hard to tell. I know we always get so excited about spring ball because it's football and everything, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm kind of getting to the age where spring ball I'm a little, not that that's an age thing. I mean, there's a lot of older gentlemen that watch our videos that get very excited about spring ball, but I don't know. Maybe I've grown. My fandom has settled down a little bit to where spring ball doesn't get me quite as amped as it used to. And I'm assuming y'all feel the same, but it may be because we're good enough. Maybe that's
I was
part
about
of
to
it
say it's
too.
because
Is
we
we're
don't really.
finally
Yeah, yeah.
we feel good about our team. It's not like, oh, we're gonna take the next step. It's like, okay, we're here. Like, let's just keep it going, stay healthy, and whatever. Um, Maybe that's it. I'll say that's it because that sounds better for for myself. Any other thoughts on spring ball?
No, not. No. To be honest with you, it's. I know what I'm looking for now, and I know what I need to see. I know who's capable, who's not. It's all about seeing it put together for me. I guess if anything for swing ball, I just want to see a lot of the new receivers and see who they got out there and what the pecking order is in that regard, and then especially the running backs too, because I think we'll have a little bit of a stable again. But other than that, um, just mainly looking for step forward. But like you said, Trevor, we won't see that till game time, anyways.
Yeah, I'm excited. I like how you said the running backs. I think Jaden Blue obviously really came on at the end of last year. I want to see like more of that because if he has a great spring, then like this dude's going to be electric next year. It seems like I want to see if it was like not just he got hot for a few games because he could be a real like X factor on offense next year for us. So I want to see how he looks. And Trevor, you mentioned it earlier. I like how you mentioned Benda coming back and especially Barron. That's so huge for our defense because if those two guys were gone, like you look around and only people that were there last year were like freshmen, like Burke, Muhammad, just freshman guys. But now that you have Benda and Barron back, you have some old timers throwing Alfred Collins too and Vernon Broughton. You have a nice
Mhm.
core of veterans to lead that defense. And so I think that's great that we have those guys back and really just keep that culture going and keep building.
Absolutely. All right. Last talking point for this show. We're gonna talk a bit about the schedule for 2024. Just give some quick thoughts. I mean, we're not going to go too deep on this, kind of keep it surface level, but Texas kind of considering to be 10.5 over under spread favorites for this spread favorite. spread for the year. A favorite to win the SEC, number two behind Georgia, I believe. Of course, everyone's rankings and favorites and everything are a little bit different. But Texas definitely looking like a top five team and just should be a good team in general. So kind of want to get y'all's thoughts on the schedule. How are we feeling? What are we thinking? Initial opening thoughts.
Just a few opening thoughts. 10.5, that's the highest in the SEC, tied with Georgia. We also have the third highest odds for a national championship. So obviously Vegas is very high on Texas this year, and they usually always are, but especially this year, which is crazy to think. In our first year, they're thinking we're going to go 11, 10 wins in the SEC. Schedule actually lines up decently manageable, just based on we don't really have tough away games besides like at A&M and at Michigan. And Michigan, of course, lost a lot, so that game will be favored in a narrow favorite. So if we could win that, we have a nice runway on the year to maybe get to OU at a 5-0, and then if you get there and get that win, then you got Georgia, probably 1 versus 2 in Austin in week 7. So you also got Florida, but luckily Florida's down. A&M, of course, throw everything out for that game. We could definitely lose that even if they're terrible and we're great. So it's a tricky schedule, but I think it's not like, oh my gosh, this is such a step up from the Big 12 schedule we played last year, which is a good thing.
Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shock value when it first came out was a lot more like, ooh, that's gonna be tough, which I'm not saying it's not, but you know, Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida, like back in the day, those might have been kind of gotcha games, but I don't know. The state of those programs are kind of at a low point right now. I'm looking at that Vanderbilt to Kentucky run, and that could be if we're healthy right there, we could rack up some wins right there, and then have some momentum going into A&M. 10.5 is a lot, though. That is a lot. I have a feeling we'll be more at 10. We'll be on the 10 side. 2 losses. I always like. I mean, we're good now, or at least we think we are. I think 2 losses is still a good place to be. Between Georgia, Oklahoma, and Michigan. It would be nice to get all 3 of those, but I really do feel like we missed 2 of those. But everything else kind of works out in our favor. You know what I mean? Early on, it's Colorado State outside of Michigan, Utah, my bad, UTSA, ULM, Mississippi State. Like those first 4 games or 5 games are pretty nice. So it gets kind of messy in the middle, but I like the way it kind of rolled our way. So right now, I'm not too high on the over there, but we're right at it, which it's a good number.
Yeah. I think what I'm most curious about, I mean, I very much similar sentiments. I definitely see us more on the side of 10-2 than 11-1. Um, Even though I could definitely see a world where we're 11-1. Only because first year in the SEC, and I don't know, SEC teams, I always feel like there seems to be a lot of upsets in the SEC where it'll be like a team that you really don't expect is gonna do anything against like a good team like Texas and wins it. I'm looking at the schedule now. I'm struggling to find what that team is. Maybe Kentucky would pull an upset, or I mean, Arkansas is trash, but I know that every time they play us, they get up big for it. Um, Hell, even Florida, I know they're talented, but I don't trust them either. And then I would say historically, Mississippi State, yeah, watch out, Mike Leach, but RIP, and they've been in a state of limbo for a while. So I don't know. But my gut would tell me 10-2, and I think that's still good enough to make the playoff and a good spot. But at the same time, we should 11-1 seems right if we play to our standard and continue to do what we've done. I think we could split the Michigan and Georgia game. As for Oklahoma, we just got to win that. I hate that we lost to them last year. It really bugs me, and we should be able to beat them, but again, that's always a toss up. So, I don't know. I mean, it'll be an exciting schedule. My only gripe, and I guess it's not a gripe, but the first half of the year is just boring. I know that we're playing Michigan in the big house. That's a big deal, but outside of that, up until Oklahoma, I'm not that jazzed. And maybe this is rich man problems now that we've, gotten much better as a program, but I'm not that excited to Colorado State, UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, even Mississippi State. Like none of those get me excited at all. Michigan, yes, but up until OU, I feel like it's almost like backloaded in terms of like exciting matchups or just name brands that get you excited. And that's not a bad problem. That's a good problem. Again, rich man problem, but I don't know. That's kind of what goes through my head when I look at the schedule.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about getting a nice runway for once, or we should be at least 4-1 going into OU. At least we should be 5-0. I think Michigan breaking in a new quarterback, new coach, losing a lot of veterans. I think with veteran Quinn and our team is semi-veteran, I guess, next they're decently experienced. That's a game where Quinn should show up and play well, and we should be able to get that signature win. Uh, but yeah, I think mainly, and I think we can beat Georgia too. I just, I think we're going to lose one of A&M and Arkansas on the road. I think,
Sure.
like you said, it's just that on the road against a team that hates us and asleep. I mean, like we're not going to be up for Arkansas. We'll be up for A&M, but we're not going to be up for Arkansas. So I think we'll be 10-1 or 11-1, 10-2. And I just really, more than the playoff, I want to go to the SEC championship and win it in year one. I think
Yeah.
that would be perfect. All these Aggies and all these stupid SEC people, all these years. It's so much, and I think we got the team to at least make it to Atlanta and at least give it a run, uh, and potentially win the whole thing. That's my goal for my fan goal for next season, more so than winning a national championship.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that's
I could
nice too. I'd also take a natty.
right. Take the natty any day, but no, I agree. Yeah, getting to Atlanta would be exciting. And I certainly winning it all would be a great first impression for the Longhorns. All right. Any final thoughts? Madrid, you want to end on anything?
Uh, you know, here comes the time of the year where the days get hotter and days get longer, and you're just yearning. Everything bad last season actually didn't happen, and you can erase it from your memory and go into the next season with so much hope. So we're in that part of the season, and soak it up while you can, boys and girls. So enjoy it. Try not to be too anxious. I think we're in a good spot.
Myers, anything?
Yeah, man, we're far away from it, but it'll come. It'll come. So yeah, same as Madrid. Just our basketball team kind of sucks, I feel like, and our baseball team is really bad. But maybe we'll make a run in March Madness. We got a decent draw, so uh, it won't be long until football season.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Last thought from me, Arch Manning. I don't think you listened to this show, and based on your comments, it sounds like you don't do anything except focus on football, which is good. But like, get in the game, dude. That's my last thought. Get in the game, my man. We need you. Like, we waited. We got a Manning at the University of Texas, and now like we finally get NCAA back, and now you're telling me that our guy isn't even gonna what's gonna happen next season? Like he's gonna get in the game eventually. I don't know. I found that hilarious. That he's the one guy, someone that's always been so under the radar is now finally making it known as like he's finally in the spotlight, and it's because of something as silly as that. So
They
yeah.
said he'll opt in once he's the starter, so he should
Oh,
be.
really? Okay.
Yeah, next year he
Okay.
should be in.
Well, that makes me feel a little better, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's pretty funny. All right, guys. thank you guys for watching. It actually does, it really does mean a lot. I know that it's been a long time since we did a video, and obviously this is a super delayed response to the Sugar Bowl. But we appreciate your patience and your loyalty to continue watching our stuff. Means a lot. And we'll continue to do videos here and there. You know the drill at this point. So just appreciate your support nonetheless. And if you are new here by some stretch, you managed to finally watch a Texas Platinum video. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a subscribe if you can. That'll help too. And we will see you guys in the next video. Until then, horns up. Y'all take care.